I'm joined now by Global Affairs analyst Kelechi Deka joins me from Lagos, and AGK Okpa is live for us in Dallas. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us on the news this hour. So Mr. Bongo's overthrow ended his family's 55-year hold on power in the Central African state. But here's what the new transitional leader is saying. He's quoted to have said, "Everyone talks about this, but no one takes responsibility." So he says that the army decided to turn the page. Let me begin with you, Mr. Deka. What other options were available for the Gabonese people before now, considering that the internet was shut down and there was an outcry about, how long this family has spent in power and how the elections have been manipulated?
Okay, thank you so much for this, for hearing me. Basically, when you look at the political landscape in Gabon over the last 50 years, a lot of people will be worried to start asking, how did the Gabonese get to this level? But the thing is that when you look around that geographical space, Gabon, Cameroon, Equatorial Guinea, these are places where some families have had hegemony over the politics for over the past 50 years. So it's something that's somehow geographical in that area. But the one in Gabon is such an exceptional case in that the same people, the same military guys that are now shouting that they've brought a kind of salvation for the country, we are also the same people who were directly responsible for entrenching this same family in power for these long years. It could be recalled that when Ali Bongo had stroke and was in Morocco for over a year or so, it was this same General Ngwema that did all the running around and organized the whole medical and stuff like that. So I think is not really Uhuru for Africa, because it's like as Igbo people would say, you sell a dog and you just buy a monkey.
Mr. Okpa, let me hear your thought here. General Ngwema, was owed to come to the ousted leader's father, Omar Bongo, who ruled for almost 42 years until his death in 2009. And we understand that this new leader had been extremely close to that former leader, serving him from 2005 until his death in a Spanish hospital. So what does he have to offer now, spreading the news of hope to the Gabonese?
Thank you for having me. It's just like anything that has happened in Africa since independence was, handed up to this fragile group of leaders. There's always an excitement. Nigeria is one of those cases. The jury is out. Hopefully, this is a war, a military takeover against France. Because France, since independence has remotely and effectively, managed affairs of Francophone African countries. You see that popping up in Mali, in Chad, Niger, Gabon. So hopefully the Africans, I grew up where my mom always said, how many times will something happen to you before you're wise enough? It seems that the Africans have taken this glorious, irresponsibility not to manage their own affairs. They are acquiesced to China, they are acquiesced to Europeans, they are acquiesced to Americans, yet they go around beating their chest, with all the PhDs and whatever it is, titles or ranks they put on themselves. But they are running their country down. So my excitement in this is hopefully this guy will say, you know what? We have to take responsibilities for our country. How can it be Gabon with 2 million people or thereabout, and then produces about 182,000 barrels of oil a day? It's just at that poor. And then the same families. How do you justify that? I know sometimes the most gullible Africans, we say, oh, well, let the West come. I live in Dallas. I've been here around for mayor. I've been part of the political process as long as I got my citizenship. This deferring to white people, Europeans, to solve your problem. It's like, okay, the gentleman who said about having a dog and then buying a monkey. The people that colonize you, the people that enslaved you, the people that don't even look at you as a human being are the people you run to. I mean, look at the shame. A president in Africa gets sick. He doesn't even get treated in their own home country. You go to Morocco, you go to England, you go everywhere in the world, and the same thing, they're laughing at you. Africans have no shame. But I'm hoping, this is when they say enough is enough. And this could be a turnaround for Africans, to begin to say, you know what? We're going to have to wrestle this elephant. Because
it just had to tell whether relief would come to the millions of people in Gabon. Just like Mr. Decker mentioned earlier, the same people who have seized power now were those who also empowered the Bongo family and ensured that they stayed in power for that long. But Mr. Decker, let me hear from you what some have called the hypocrisy of the West, the UN, the US, UK, African Union, and France have all condemned the coup in Gabon. Well, you will hear the deposed president himself reaching out to his friends all over the world to make noise. So he has friends in the West who didn't call the attention to how long he has stayed in power. The same thing is happening in Rwanda, in Cameroon. We understand both countries have now made radical changes in their military leadership after the Gabon story. How come the West is now concerned when the coup happens? Why are they not talking to sit-tight leaders in the continent to allow democracy have its place?
Yeah, you see, I think Africa, we've come to a situation, we've come to a time where we also have to take a look at what we call democracy. We have to also think about, whether we should adapt and adopt democracy as the West sees it, or we should think about coming up with an African democratic system that suits our whims and caprices. Because what you're seeing in Africa is that, look at Ali Bongo, for example. He manipulated the constitution so that he would go for a third term, even from a sick bed, even on a wheelchair. But aside from that, there are a lot of people I spoke with in Gabon, and part of the challenge, some of them are also why some of them are also worried about the development, is that Ali Bongo manipulated this election, last week's election, to ensure that the opposition that has a groundswell of support around Gabon that wanted to vote him out legitimately did not win. And some people in Gabon presently are also seeing this coup, that this is also a coup against a bigger coup. And the bigger coup would have been the removal of Ali Bongo legitimately, which he made sure did not work. Part of the situation we've been having is that the West will, they will make kind of noise. And, interestingly, Ali Bongo spoke in English. He did not speak in French. So by speaking in English, he was trying to kind of expand the reach of his message beyond the French-speaking countries and reach out to other countries. And when you're speaking in English and you're making that kind of play, it's very easy to know who he's referring to. But over time, he is a failure. He has been a failure, and he has not been able. If you look at the economic indices, if you look at the Human Development Index in Gabon from the time he took over to now, you will see that he has not been able to impact on the lives of the people. So I think what some of the countries in the West are doing is they're just doing what they normally do.
All right.
But we as Africans, we should stop expecting, looking up to the West and start, solving our problems internally.
So two countries, quickly, Mr. Ekpa, we have to go now. Cameroon and Rwanda are reacting to the situation in Gabon with a change in the military leadership. Is this a warning to the two poles?
Are you asking me or the other gentleman?
No, I'm asking you, Mr. Ekpa. Is this a warning to, leaders in Africa who have stayed for way too long?
Well, look, look at Nigeria. You're talking about manipulating the constitution. Obasanjo tried it, 2007, and he didn't get lucky. It doesn't really matter whether they are in uniform or in Abada, which is the civilian clothes. It's the mentality of the African that is very horrible when it comes to national interest and how to fight for themselves. Countries have been colonized, countries have been enslaved or whatever. It's just that the black race, you look around the world, how many African or black-led countries are very successful? So the time has to come to where you said, hey, what is it that I'm doing? And nobody says the president is going to be poor, but you cannot be taken from your people and having it stashed in foreign country, and then impoverishing your own people and taking pride in it. I don't care whether he spoke in English or Latin, a time has come to where Africans need to begin to look at themselves in the eye and be critical of their leaders. The emperor lasts as long as the people in the empire keep yelling, Your Majesty. The people that are doing these things to you are not ghosts. They're your brothers, your sisters, your cousins, or whatever the relationship is. If they cannot serve you, let them have it. And then when the foreign people show up, when the whites, the Asians, the Lebanese, the Pakistanis, you tell them back off. If somebody comes into your home and kicks you to the back of the house, or the case in Nigeria to the boys' quarter, the shame is on you. This joke is on Africans. And until they revive the way they think, forget the degrees, forget it with the school ever they went to, Africans have become the joke of the world because we celebrate people that we're supposed to be critical of when it comes to doing things for their country.
All right.
You look at Nigeria, what is going on, you look at Ghana, you look at everywhere, it is a shame.
That's our time, Mr. Okpa. I'm sure you meant the way we think, because the fact that you're in Dallas doesn't also exclude you from being African yourself. AGK Okpa, Global Affairs Analyst, Kelechi Deka. Gentlemen, thank you for talking to us on the program this hour.
Thank you.
Thank you.